So you got contractors working for your wedding business. You probably already know that there should be a written agreement between you and that contractor. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 4 critical terms that you probably should consider including in that contract. Stick around. Out there, welcome back to Wedding Industry Law. My name is Rob. I'm an attorney representing wedding industry professionals. And if you are a wedding industry professional, if you have an event-based business, then this YouTube channel is for you. We have weekly videos concerning all things contracts, business disputes, trademarks, all things related to running a wedding business for you to try to keep it legal. Like today's video, for example, critical contract terms for your independent contractor agreement. We're going to be talking about 4 things that you might be overlooking in your contract with your independent contractors. So let's go ahead and get started with the first one.
Number 1,
term and termination. If you stole your independent contractor agreement from the internet, then it's probably going to have boilerplate contractor term and termination language, which is the parties are agreeing to the terms of this contract for the duration of a year, for example. And at the end of the year, it's going to re-up for another year unless the parties say no. And I mean, that can be good and bad, but it's not really written for the wedding and event industry, where your independent contractor is somebody that, is working for you gig to gig, not for a duration of time necessarily. So you want to make sure that the contractor is locked in to gigs, same way as your client, not necessarily to a duration of time. And so to get even more specific on that, you want to make sure that the contract addresses how the contractor can terminate the agreement if there are gigs that person has currently accepted, or if there are no gigs that are currently accepted. So in that second scenario where the contractor doesn't have any gigs lined up with you, then it should be easier to terminate the contract. But if there are gigs lined up, then that might leave you vulnerable to, not having enough people, right? So you need to address that scenario. So if unfortunately, if you did steal your contract from the internet, then you might have a gaping hole when it comes to the term of the contract, how the gigs are accepted, and how the gigs can be declined or terminated by the contractor. So you want to address that. Super, super important to address that issue.
Number 2,
the second critical term in your independent contractor agreement that you want to consider, at least if you're into this type of thing, is non-solicitation. So you can prevent certain behavior in your independent contractor. And most of the time, it's going to boil down to preventing the contractor from kind of stealing or coveting your employees or other contractors, but more importantly, stealing your clients or potential leads. So for example, if you have an independent contractor, if you're a planner and your independent contractor is kind of a part-time planner that does work for you sometimes on some gigs, on some events, if they are walking around and you yourself, the planner, are doing a great job, and a wedding attendee comes up and goes, "My gosh, this has been such a great wedding. It's been planned insanely great. I love it. This is the best place I've ever been. This is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Give me your card. I want to hire you." You want to prevent the contractor from handing that potential lead the contractor's card rather than your card. In other words, you don't want them soliciting your potential leads, your potential clients, and you can do that typically only if there is a written contract between the two of you, and that's why that's going to be a critical term. If you want to prevent a contractor from stealing your people, Jerry Maguire style, or stealing your leads or your potential clients, that's the way you do it, non-solicitation in the independent contractor agreement.
Number 3,
the number 3 thing is going to be intellectual property ownership. So typically under normal copyright law, the smeller is the feller. In other words, typically the individual that snaps the picture, writes the blog post, makes the rap song, writes the poem, is typically going to be the copyright owner of that material. So typically independent contractors are going to be the copyright owner, typically the copyright owner of whatever pictures they take at that event, whatever blog posts they might write for you, whatever songs they may sing for you. So in order to get around that default rule, you want to spell it out completely in your independent contractor agreement. You want to say, listen, to the extent that you generate any creative content, any new material, any photographs, whatever it is, you sing me a song, I don't care, whatever it is, if you generate that in furtherance of whatever the agreement is between me and you, I, the wedding professional, not the contractor, are going to own that copyright. I'm going to own the intellectual property in that. You want to assign or have the contractor assign all the rights in those materials to you. That's going to be super important because there's often gray areas when that contractor goes off and a couple of years later, you're seeing pictures of your events on their website. You want to, if you want to prevent that, it's going to have to be in that independent contractor agreement. It's going to have to be in the form of some type of copyright assignment, some type of work for hire issue. But at the end of the day, it needs to be addressed in your agreement.
Number 4.
Confidentiality is going to be the fourth thing that you want to address in your independent contractor agreement. What do I mean by confidentiality? So it's going to be, what do you mean by confidentiality? What do you mean by what you want to protect? So some wedding professionals have things that they don't want to leak out. They have proprietary information that is unique to them, that they've worked hard, they've spent money on, they've, a lot of man hours or woman hours developing their systems. And they don't want that going out to the general wedding community. So you can have your independent contractor, to the extent that they receive that proprietary information, like how you do things, your systems, your operations, your scripts, these type of things. They must keep it confidential. They cannot use it in furtherance of their own business. That's one component of confidentiality. A more important component of confidentiality as it pertains to the wedding industry is going to be keeping confidential guest lists, guest information, who's going to the event, particularly when you get to the more celebrity wedding type situations. You want to make sure that your contractor is going to agree to keep all that information confidential and not go to TMZ with who's going to be at that wedding. So to sum up, term and termination, non-solicitation, intellectual property, confidentiality. These are things that are going to be important to the average wedding industry professional that is not going to be covered with any specificity if you stole your independent contractor from the contractor agreement from the internet. So I would advise that you go back, look over those things, think about it, scratch your head, actually put some time into it and make sure that you're covered on those 4 aspects. I hope that you found the content of this video informative. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe. New videos just like this every Monday. And with that, folks, we'll see you next time.